Well, what do you expect from these AAA publishers these days? As usual, the cold opener established this episode's spotlight characters as the 6 siblings, the Hamadas. More on those details in just a bit, and after the opening, we cut over to one of the Stooges suffering. Already, this is the best episode so far. The Ojamajo's class were practicing for the big sports festival, which would see the kids from all of the grades participate. This would especially apply to the aforementioned Hamada siblings, who along with Itoko, who was in the Ojamajo's 3rd grade class, they also had a sibling in every other elementary grade. Which would mean that Mrs. Hamada had one kid every year 6 years in a row. Bunnies wish they could bonk as much as y'all. Also, a nice bit of laziness just reversing the animation from the cold opener. I mean, don't get me wrong, there is some great animation in this episode, but it's also clear that they needed to cut a few corners like with this and the many slender boys and girls in shots like this. Hell, it even affected poor Pop. Anyway, every student at the school would be split into 2 large teams, and as it just so happened, the 6 siblings were all on the red team. I guess they might have been selected through lottery, but damn, what are the odds? Still, whatever. As long as these characters get some decent character development, then I'm sure this'll lead into some interesting family drama. Right? Anyway, the Ojamajo stopped by the Mahodo a little later than usual due to the prep for the festival, much to Majrika's annoyance, who wanted her underage employees to work in her shop as much as possible. And I'll just say it now, this little toad was probably the best part of this episode. While some of the animation here was a little lazy, I think a lot of that got funneled into Majrika's over-the-top reactions to the Ojamajo not paying her any attention. Yeah, she was still her usual nagging self, but at least she was hilarious here. At least a lot more so than this voyeuristic amphibian. Dude, you realize this is taking place at an elementary school, right? Or is that your aim? Also, why even bother taking him out? I mean, I know he's gonna be important later in this episode, but why in this exact moment? Anyway, we also got to see the Hamada siblings declaring to their grandfather that their team would win in not at all a creepy manner. Also, damn, the dad doesn't look like much, but the mom is holding up well for a 6-timer. The Ojamajo continued to prep and train for the big day, with Doremi of course not having much luck with the baton pass. Granted, it might have been because something else was causing problems for her, but we all know Doremi's catchphrase at this point. Fortunately, they did get a little support from the eldest Hamada siblings. Also, why do you sound exactly like my teacher? Seriously, you couldn't go with a slightly different voice than that? The big day soon arrived, and everyone's family, including of course the Hamadas, were there. Again, can't wait for the big payoff to this subplot. And the families of the Ojamajo were also there, including Aiko's dad. Huh, those are some rather foreboding looking storm clouds. The festival then got underway, and things weren't going well for anyone as much of the equipment failed, and there were accidents galore that likely led to almost every event ending in no contests. Obviously, all of this was unusual, with the oddity of it all highlighted by this strange effect that the chalk liner gave off. Is someone trying to synchro summon? I'll admit, I actually didn't catch this at first, but as it turned out, all of this misfortune were the result of a bad card, which was obviously in the chalk liner. Of course, the Ojamajo didn't know this, and thus Doremi had her sister go retrieve the Pure Lane PC. Pop did run into a few issues, including some wayward seagulls, and a few trees. Oh come on, we all know that the only way a magical girl should go through trees is by cutting them all down. Eventually, she returned with the laptop along with Majrika just for herself. Do that one more time and I'm going to add a 1 to this 9-1. They searched all over the festival grounds, and we got more of those good old Oyaji jokes, mostly involving Kim being a creepy perv. Thankfully, they eventually found the card, which seemed to have the ability to move between chalk liners. An interesting detail that would explain why all of the chalk lines were cursed, but for whatever reason, it didn't try to escape when the Ojamajo extracted it. Again, considering everything else going on in this episode, I doubt they had time for stuff like that. Yeah, if you couldn't tell, this is a pretty busy episode and not at all in a good way. There's just so much going on between the hunt for the bad card, its effect on the festival, the Ojamajo's training. Heck, there's even a subplot involving Reika. I didn't really bring it up because it wasn't all that important, but throughout the episode, Reika had been complaining and trying to worm her way into the relay race. She got her opportunity near the climax of this episode while the Ojamajo dealt with the bad card. So how do they resolve this conflict?
Well, that was pointless.
And yet, during all of this, I couldn't help but feel like we were forgetting something. Perhaps something that was hinted at the very beginning of this episode. Yeah, I honestly think they just forgot about the siblings, and as a result, I think they tried to make up for it by really playing up the importance of the relay race, even haphazardly throwing in the show's opening as an insert song. Yeah, call me crazy, but shouldn't you be saving stuff like that for more climactic episodes like a final battle? Or during the emotional farewell to a series. Just saying, y'all are being a little wasteful. The race itself was fine, but again, nothing really got a lot of focus, so the big moment of Doremi successfully making the baton pass kind of rang hollow. I think I felt a lot more during any of the Azumanga Daioh Sports Festival episodes, especially the last one, as there was a good amount of focus on Chio-chan trying to improve her game, and her friends working hard to help her through it. Anyway, the red team won, much to this old man's joy, and the episode ended with 2 cliches in a row. Much like that Tropical Rouge episode I reviewed a few days ago, this episode did have a lot of good animation and comedy, but man, was the story a mess. There was just so much going on between the festival, the bad card, and those 6 siblings who I guess we were supposed to care about them winning even though we barely knew anything about them. Honestly, I don't think an episode like this really needed a spotlight character and should have just focused on the bad card and the threat it posed. Now, of course, I did expect them to fully develop 6 characters in one episode, not unless this is Osomatsu-san. That said, I was expecting at least one of them to be developed, specifically Itoko, so that we could at least have an emotional anchor for wanting to see their team win. But no, we just got these brief exchanges with the Ojamajo and their grandfather, and now I guess we're supposed to care about them? I don't know, it almost feels like these characters were added in at the last minute, when really, the conflict with the bad card and the negative effects it had on everyone at the festival would have been more than enough of a story. It's clear that everyone was excited for this festival, so I don't really see what made this all that special for the Hamada siblings and why they needed so much focus. Now that aside, the actual build up to the discovery of the bad card with the synchro summon effects and Pop retrieving the laptop were really well done and animated. There was also plenty of laughs to be had, especially from Majorika being everyone's butt monkey. So if you were to watch this just for the visuals and comedy, then you'll have a good time. But if you want some good and engaging plot lines, then this is definitely a case of quantity over quality. After a busy week doing my civic duty, I think I'm ready to go back to working on my other side projects for this channel. Next up is going to be a little bit of a quick discussion video before I get back into my Gold Princess reviews. Part 3 of those reviews will take a little while as I am about to move into my new apartment, but don't worry, it shouldn't affect my weekly Tropical Rouge reviews. Be sure to look forward to all that. Until then though, farewell for now my friends, and hey Yusei, could you save the synchro summoning for later? Also, your card names are starting to get a little ridiculous.